everybody, and welcome back to Shaman Talk with Tegan, or welcome for the first time if this is your first time around. So I'll briefly go over, in case this is your first video, what's going on here. So I'm kind of revamping this page. I've had it for a while. I was just doing stuff out of my bedroom, my iPhone. So now I have actual equipment and actual space where I can come and record these videos. So if you're someone who's kind of been watching as I go, I am going to go over topics that I've already talked about, but now I'm going to do it here. And also, I've been working longer as a shaman since making a lot of those videos. Also, behind me it says Tarot with Tegan. That's where you'll find me on Facebook and Instagram, and that is also my email if you're interested in getting a hold of me. It's also on this page somewhere. Okay, getting that out of the way, welcome. Today we are going to talk about ghosts / spirits / spirit attachments. So this is going to be a similar video to the one I've done before, except when I first made my spirit attachment video months and months ago, I had never actually performed a spirit detachment before. I had it done to me because of a spirit that was attached to me. I had seen it done in practice through my shaman training. I've seen it happen. I'm happy, I guess, to report that I have now actually done it for people, for clients who have had spirits attached to them. So I've actually done the process. So I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. I won't go into extreme detail because I also don't want to give away these people's personal information, but they are something I've talked about before. So, I don't normally talk about things that happen with my clients, but if they give me permission, then it's all good. So, ghosts. I want to start with the fact that this is one of those, I call them like trigger words, because some people are going to hear that and be like, ugh, oh my God, here we go. But really, in the shaman world, what we refer to ghosts as is an earthbound spirit. That's the terminology we usually use. But essentially, it's the same thing as a ghost. And so I'm going to refer to them as spirits from now on, but know that it's basically the same thing. It's just that when people hear ghosts, they think like, oh, this person's nuts. Or same thing with like aliens or UFOs, these very real things that are out there, are happening. But because of the terminology that we use, sometimes people automatically dismiss the idea. So I want to try and, my job isn't to convince anyone of anything technically, but I want to maybe bring forth another terminology that's a little more approachable, I guess, and more believable maybe. So are ghosts real? Yes. Earthbound spirits are very real, and they are around, and for the reasons that you've probably heard of before, even if you're not a believer or you're not sure, earthbound spirits sometimes get stuck because of something like a violent death, or they died suddenly. It might not have been violent, but it might have been quick. And so they get a little confused, and there is kind of this window of time and opportunity for a person to move on to the next phase of life. And sometimes people miss that window, or sometimes they purposely choose to forego that window. And the reasons for a person to choose not to move on right away, there's 100 different reasons, but it happens. And so they're here kind of in the fourth dimension, if you will, just hanging around. And that's not good. Even if they are somebody who does not have ill intent, no one's meant to be hanging around in that fourth dimension doing whatever, So if you watch like ghost hunting shows and they go to old buildings and they, get all these weird things that happen, I believe most of these people are very, they're true to what's happening. They're not making things up. Maybe for the sake of the episode, they might embellish something. Sure, it's TV, I get it. But the fact is that in a lot of these places, like these abandoned hospitals and abandoned, sanatoriums, things where like horrific things took place, they very much are probably haunted. There are spirits there, but what I want to say is that whether you are a believer or not, or whether you actively go and look for ghosts, is to remember that these things that you're encountering are people. They're literally people who are either stuck in some kind of loop of their death, or they are aware they're dead, but they don't know how to move on. They don't know how to get there, and they're probably pissed off, So it's all about respect. As long as you go into something like that with respect, then it's fine. But I think what I sometimes see is that these people go into these places where it is haunted, there are spirits, and they're, yelling at people or forcing people to give them information, or, there's maybe, just for an example, a doctor there who perform these horrible tests on people. So they go into these places saying, this person's evil, you're evil, what's wrong with you, blah blah blah, why haven't you gone from here? And it's like, you need to take a step back, because even though this person might have done horrific things to people, despite what you may think, that is a human soul, and he deserves peace and deserves to move on. And he's not going to be able to do that with people coming in there all the time and yelling at him and calling him names. So that's kind of where my opinion lies, at a certain point, from what I know, from what I've seen and heard and done so far. So yeah, I just want to throw that out there in case there's anybody watching who, goes ghost hunting or is interested in that. It's all about respect. And just because you might not see someone as being worthy of human treatment, that's not the case. So a personal goal of mine is I would love to go to some of these places, like the asylums, the old hospitals. I want to be able to go there because I do have the ability to move people on. And that's all I want to do. I want to go there and I want to help people move on, no matter who they are, what they did, because everyone deserves a peaceful transition. Anywho, that's just some personal information I'm going to put out there, put it out into the universe. Although the day I'm recording today, there is some weird chaotic energy swirling around the collective today. So hopefully this is recording, everything's going okay, because it's been chaos, and not just for me. And it's, like I said, it's in the collective and there's weird things happening. So hopefully there's no spirits here right now. I don't sense any, but we'll see. Okay, so ghosts, spirits, very real, can haunt places. Doesn't have to be a crazy asylum. It can be someone's house. They can attach to an object. That's doesn't happen a lot from what I understand, but they can. Now what I will say is that although I just gave a whole speech on these human spirits and earthbound spirits, and that they're all human beings, there are real things out there that aren't human spirits. There are entities out there. There are dark things, or what some people would call a demon. Those are very real as well. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. That'll be maybe another video, but those things, just be aware that those things are real as well. And they can haunt places. Like I said in my last video, if when something is an entity rather than a spirit, you'll know. It's a very different feeling, and it just seeps into you almost, and it's like, oh, it almost makes you sick because it's so much negative energy. And so if you're someone who feels that, or like I said in the last video, if you know your house, something's going on with your house, something's not, like, really not right, hit me up because I can help. Okay, so earthbound spirits, besides haunting places, they can attach to people. And part of my shamanic training is to be able to go in, figure out if you have an attachment, and then send that person on their way, or send that entity back to where it came from. So, why would a spirit attach to a person? the list can go on for the specific reasons. I'll name a couple just general ideas. Sorry. For one reason, when there's lots of energy, it comes up as like hiccups for me. Sorry. Okay. One reason is that they feel they have unfinished business. Something you've probably heard of in like books, in movies, whatever. That's very real. If they had something they specifically needed to do in life, or they felt they needed to do and they felt they did not accomplish that, guess who's going to be hanging around trying to accomplish that exact goal? The thing is, even if they don't have, bad or negative intent, hanging around is not good. Not good for anybody. So it could also be, and I think I gave a similar example in my last video, but if you have, let's say, Grandma Jane has passed on, she's died. And Grandma Jane loved to party to the very end. She was drinking wine. She was having a good time. When Grandma Jane dies, if she's conscious of the notion that she is dead, she could very possibly be like, hold on now. I'm not ready to go. I want to keep partying with everybody. So what she might do is find a family member that's still alive that she knows likes to party. They are party partners, okay? She's going to come to this person most likely in some kind of subconscious state. So dreaming, or if this person, does meditate or something, she's going to be like, hey, Billy, can I come stay with you for a little bit? And because it's Grandma, Billy's going to be like, yeah, sure. So Grandma Jane's going to attach to Billy and party it out a little longer. Not with ill intent, but because she doesn't want to be left out, right? So the problem is no one's meant to carry someone else's energy. So eventually, Billy is going to go from being a social drinker, and you're going to slowly start to see things happening to where all of a sudden he can't function without alcohol. And this is just a general example again, but this is the idea of what happens when it's not something sinister. It's meant to be, Grandma just wants to stay and hang out, but guess what? Not good for anybody. Billy has problems now. Now he's in rehab, but for some reason, rehab's not working. Nothing's helping him. It's because Grandma's attached to him. So I put this out there very carefully because addiction is a very serious thing. And I am not knocking any kind of AA, any kind of program. You have to do what's best for you. But what I think needs to happen is there needs to be an integration of the spiritual with these addicts, with recovery, because there are examples of when someone does a spirit detachment and, oh, look, Billy over here is fine. So there are times, and this is what people sometimes have a hard time accepting, and I understand, but it's like, if we don't at least take into account there's a possibility, besides just a personality problem or besides trauma, there's also this a whole other thing that we're missing of negative or positive attachments that are causing people to want to drink or do drugs because there's just too much going on. So that's just something to keep in mind, keep an open mind about, because if you're someone who struggles with addiction, it's what does it hurt to see someone like me and figure out if you have an attachment? You might not. Maybe you just need more therapy, need more of whatever you got to do, and that's fine. But maybe, guess what? I find something or someone, and it's like, oh shit, here we go. It's going to get real now. But that's the thing, is I or other people have this ability, can move them on, and you can start living your life again. So again, the whole reason I'm putting all these videos out here is to, open people's minds to different possibilities. Okay, so getting back to the spirit attachments, what are some other signs that maybe you have an attachment or someone does? So besides the fact, someone's, problems have been amplified, or someone went from being a casual drinker to a full-blown alcoholic all of a sudden. Other signs are like, let's say Grandma loved pickles and you've always hated pickles. All of a sudden you got a hankering for pickles and you can't explain it. So it's small things like that sometimes, or just the tiniest little like changes in behavior. It's not possession. That is real, but that is different. But it's still, this person who's attached to you can influence you in different ways. So, that's obviously not a good thing. And we want to be able to just be ourselves and do what we would like to do, not what this person that's attached to us wants to do. Okay, so if it's not grandma who's attached to you, then it's a possibility that it's someone from a past life. One of the spirit detachments that I have done recently, it was a grandfather like figure from this person's other life. So they don't actively remember him, but he was there, and guess what? He was trying to hide from me. So if I see someone in person, there is a specific test that I do to see if there's a spirit there. But I'm learning that there are also other signs besides the ones I just named that a person might pick up on themselves. When I'm working on someone, if I'm going through their chakras, usually when I clear someone in an illumination, you kind of start in like the problem area, and then things kind of start to flow and the energy starts to flow. I started to notice that if the energy starts just hopping around, I know someone's trying to get away from me, so to speak. So the most recent detachment I did, that started happening out of nowhere. I would clear this chakra, then this chakra would be closed. And I'd clear that chakra, then another chakra would be closed. And it's just like, what is happening? So I had to go in, I had to kind of go into a slightly different state, so to speak, and try and find who this person is, where they are. And he kept trying to boop, pop, boop. I'd see him and then he'd disappear. I eventually got him though, and I was like, whoa, what are you doing? And again, I'm not going to go into every detail about it because it's not my story to share fully, but that person was there without ill intent, but they were dragging my client down because they had way too much energy. They had way too much weight, so to speak, on their shoulders that wasn't meant to be there. So, you get rid of them, and people have different reactions to spirits leaving them, because a lot of people, depending on how long they have been with you, if they are from past lives, you're used to carrying them around. So it might feel weird, or you might feel like empty, or like you're missing something, and that's normal. But it's for the best. And some people, when you detach, it's like, whew, didn't realize I was carrying that much energy with me. I feel great. But similar to the illumination, the results are the way people feel after that is all different all across the board. So, it's up to that person to decide. Well, they feel how they feel is what it is. And whether it feels like they lost someone or they're lonely or not, the fact of the matter is, like I've been saying, no one's meant to carry other people or other things. So we're going to take a slightly different turn and talk about this, because another way that someone or something can attach to you is that you give it permission. Pretty much anyone who attaches to you needs permission to do it. But like I said with the grandma example, she's going to come to you probably in your dream and just be like, hey, let's party together. And you're not going to think twice about it because it's grandma, right? Now, if an entity attaches to you, they're going to be sneaky. They're going to come to you in dream time or in that weird in-between state. Have you ever been there where it's like you're not fully awake yet, but you're not really dreaming? And they can be sneaky about it. I got an attachment once within the last year because I was having a dream and I knew it was weird. And I was like, what's going on here? But then I saw my childhood dog. And he like psychically asked if he could come up and join me in the bed and lay down next to me. And I was like, yeah, of course. But then I actually physically felt something like climb on top of me, like that I knew wasn't just part of the dream. And I knew, I was like, oh shit, what did I just invite into my energy field? And so I had to detach that from my energy. But that is something just to be aware of, that if someone comes to you in your dreams, or you have a random dream, whether you know them or not, if anybody asks for permission to do something, no is the answer. Even if it's grandma, no. They might try and trick you and say, hey, I just want to do this really quick and then I'll be gone. Can I hang out with you? Can I stay with you? Can I stay with you just for a little bit? No, answer's no. You don't want anybody hanging out with you from the other realm, okay? Your guides, your angels, your ancestors, anybody who is on the other side, who's meant to help you, is not going to ask you to stay with them. Okay, so those people who have fully crossed on and who are of, divine love and light already know how to kind of get a hold of you or help you out when necessary. Anybody or anything else has to have that permission. So that's just something to be aware of. And I don't tell people these things to scare them or put you in a state of fear. It's just, good knowledge to know, especially if you're someone who is, dipping your toes into spirituality or trying out, I hear a lot of people talk about how they try different things for lucid dreaming. And, you have to be careful, especially if you're new to it or you don't really know what you're doing. Just be aware of your surroundings. So don't give people or things permission in your sleep or in your waking life, if you don't want them to attach to you. Because negative things can come in, and those are not going to be like grandma and just want to party. They're going to try and really get you to do some not so nice things. So my other kind of interesting point I want to make, I guess, it really, after learning about this and working through different things with earthbound spirits and entities, I am really curious to, do sessions on people who are in prison, which might sound very weird and, not normal, but I'm willing to bet a lot of people who have murdered, a lot of people who have committed, other serious crimes. I'm willing to bet at least, and this is just a shot in the dark, 50% of those people probably have some kind of negative attachment on them, with them. So the people if you hear someone say something like, I was hearing voices, people were talking to me, that is a surefire way to know that they have an attachment. And I think a lot of times they get diagnosed with schizophrenia and things like that. And not that that isn't real or that might be the case for some people, but I am 100% sure that some of those cases where they got diagnosed as a schizophrenic, they're not schizophrenic. They are hearing voices because there are entities right up in their ear talking to them. And the negative ones are whispering about chaos, killing, whatever it is, torture, things like that. So part of what I want to do eventually is to go to prisons. I want to go there in a safe environment, so to speak, and I want to start detaching spirits from people, because it might be too late for some of them, but as I said earlier in this video, everyone deserves a peaceful transition in death. So even if they're dying in prison, at least they can go peacefully. So it can be difficult because obviously there's people who've done some pretty horrible things out there, but some of them, it probably is not fully their fault, because so many people are detached from their spiritual selves, from the spiritual world, that they have no idea that this is actually happening. So that's also just something to keep in mind. If you know someone who's like, man, I'm hearing voices, your guides, your ancestors, whoever, they're not going to physically talk to you. You're not going to hear voices. At least most people. There might be the few exceptions, but psychically, yes, especially in that in-between state, something might pop into your head, or you swear someone just says something to you. As long as it's not a physical thing, that's okay. So where do we go from here? I don't want to get too off topic. Attachment's very real. I can detach people. I can do that at a distance as well. It doesn't have to be in person. Another person I did in person, and it's funny because, during training, you kind of get this list of like, here's the signs, here's how you get rid of them. But, bing, bang, boom. And the first time I ever did one, it just went AWOL, because it's like I was saying in my first video, the spirit world doesn't go by a specific set of rules. So it's just kind of funny because I'm going through the steps trying to make sure I do it all right. And then I hit like a snag. The person who I'm supposed to be moving on, who in the lineup, it says like, oh, from this point, they'll go to the light. And they're not going. They're like, no, I'm good. Then I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know what to do from here. Luckily, I figured it out in the moment, but it's just like, okay, well, that checklist didn't work. I had to figure it out on my own. But anyways, the point is, people need to be moved on. Entities need to be gone. Now, I can do that through my normal shamanic illumination process if necessary, but I can also do that through the crystal dreaming process. But instead of me telling the person to get going, you tell the person to get going, because I bring you into a different state, different consciousness state, and you're the one talking to them. So, if crystal dreaming is not for the faint of heart, but it is absolutely necessary for some people. So if you feel like you got someone stuck to you, hit me up. We'll figure it out. Sometimes it's not anybody attached to you. Sometimes, so to speak, it's your own shit that's behind you that you refuse to take a look at, that's coming up behind you. It's not an entity, it's not a person, it's your own bullshit that you don't want to look at. Nope, don't want to see it, don't want to know about it. And we gotta take the time to really look at ourselves and our triggers and our emotions, so that we don't feel those things. That's for another episode, though. We'll stick to ghosts. So don't invite things. If things ask you to stay or ask to join you or anything like that, if someone or something asks you also to sign some kind of contract, don't do it. Do not go past go. Do not collect $200. Bad news. If you're someone who's like, oh shit, I had a weird dream about someone asking me to sign something because I was going to be famous or because I wanted money, you better talk to me, because we got to get rid of that contract. That's going to screw you over. You hear in Hollywood about people talking about, meeting with specific people, or the most recent one I heard was drinking the golden juice. And people are like, what does that even mean? It means you signed some kind of contract and sold your soul. That's it. Did you literally give away your entire soul? No, probably not. But you signed a contract with some deep, deep, dark things, and you better hope that you can find someone to help you out. So, again, not trying to scare people, but we need to be aware of these things. And we need to be, first of all, become self-aware. And second, then we become spiritually and energetically aware, so that we are not controlled by other beings. And that's what got to me when I first heard about spirit attachments. I was like, oh, there's no way. Come on. But yeah, way. It's very real. And if you want to be exactly who you're meant to be, you got to dig into these things and make sure that you're making your decisions and living your life based off of you and not somebody else floating around you, or other things. Like I just said, our own crap that we refuse to look at. You got to face it head on, and we got to get these things out of our systems, out of our energetic fields. We hold on not just to people potentially, but to these negative emotions, these negative traumas. And so it's time to let it go. So as always, I am not the only person who can help you. There are other people out there, other ways to help yourself. This is just one way. Okay. And not everyone has an attachment, but lots of people probably do. One thing I do get questions on. So there's someone that I've worked with a couple times. They've gotten a couple sessions done. And they're one of the people that I detached a spirit from. And they were like, well, why now? I've come to you a couple times. And the answer is, it could have been the spirit. Like I said, that spirit was tricky. He was trying to disappear on me, trying to, float around and make sure I didn't catch him. But also your own guides. If there's something more, important that needs to be cleared first, then that's what's going to happen. If there needs to be a soul retrieval done first before we even worry about that grandfather that's floating around you, then that's what's going to come up, So that's why I say too, with the illuminations and crystal dreaming sessions, it's not a one and done thing. Most of us have a lot of stuff that we're holding on to that we don't even know. Okay. So that's just one of these things, is a possible attachment. Okay, let me go through my list really quick. I want to make sure I got onto everything. I went off on some tangents, but I think we got it all. So, is it possible you have an attachment? Yes. Is it possible that it's just a grandma from this lifetime or a grandpa from another lifetime? Yes. Either way, they need to go. Is it possible to have a dark entity attached to you? Yes, it is. Don't invite things. Don't let things come into your energy field. Say, no, not today. So yes, the last thing I want to say about this is, no matter what I'm talking about, there needs to be this mass remembering of our power. And you maybe hear people talk about reclaiming your power, reclaiming this. It's not just for women. It's not just for like witches or whatever people call themselves. This is for everybody. The power is in knowing that these things exist, and is in knowing that maybe we have one of those issues. And then we get rid of it. And guess what? That portion of the problem's gone. The remembering and the reclaiming of the power is knowing that you are an energetic being. Period. You're in a meat suit to be here in the third dimension. This is not who you are. And the more people can understand that, and if you get there in a different way than besides listening to me ramble on, then fine. But if you can remember that and understand it, then that's a big part of reclaiming your power and understanding who you actually are, and that everything around you's energy. Everything you say affects the things around you. Everything you do, every little minute decision, little thought that you think changes your reality. It changes what's going on around you. So that's why, you hear, for some reason, people are very offended all of a sudden about love and light and how it's toxic or something. People just have all their different opinions. It's fine. But ultimately, we're trying to remember who we are, which is a divine light being. So yes, we need to let in love and light. We need to put it around us. We need to make as much love and light as possible. So we remember who we are, so we all can come together collectively and be at peace. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox here. We're talking about ghosts today. I'll go on this rampage another time. I'll finish it later. But ghosts are real. If you're a non-believer, it's fine. You're going to have to remember at some point, though, so you may as well start now, right? You don't have to believe every little thing that I believe or that I say, but understanding who we are is a big part of this, and knowing that these things exist is important. And don't let other people's opinions of, the word ghost or the word spirits, don't let that affect you and what you believe and what you do. Too many times I talk to people about these things thinking they have no idea or don't care at all. And then they're like, well, I secretly believe in ghosts. Or I secretly do think that we're like from somewhere else, or that we don't belong here really. And it's like, at this point, say it loud and proud, I feel like I'm kind of collecting people out of the woodwork, and I love it because it's like, yes, let's all come together. We don't have to be embarrassed. Be who you are. It's fine. Okay, I'm going to end this right here before I just ramble, but if you need to get a hold of me, if you have questions, if you have comments, maybe you have a slightly different take on something that I've said, great, let me know. Maybe you're a ghost hunter and you're like, yo, what the fuck? Why'd you just put us on blast? Do it. It's fine. I want to have an open dialogue. Tarot with Tegan. That's me on Instagram and Facebook, and also my email. This podcast is called Shaman Talk with Tegan, and maybe one day I'll have a new light. I don't know. They're very expensive. But like I said, the reason for these videos is to educate people, at least get their minds thinking, to have a different thought process, maybe just be more open-minded and start a dialogue. So, if you want to leave a comment, if you want to find me and message me, DM me, whatever, do it. It's fine. Whether you have the same opinions, different opinions, I want to hear them. And yeah, let's do the damn thing.